Across the centuries, history has buried countless secrets, some lost to time, others deliberately erased. But hidden within the gaps of old records and whispered legends lie mysteries that refuse to fade. They echo through abandoned ruins, manifest in impossible artifacts, and haunt the edges of human understanding. These stories challenge what we know of our past and hint at something deeper, older, and far stranger. Step inside and uncover 5 forgotten truths history was never meant to reveal. Welcome to Unsolved Archives, where we delve into the hidden, the mysterious, and the unanswered. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight could be the key to unlocking the truth. The Stone Garden of Virello. High in the isolated Virello Valley, nestled between steep, evergreen-covered ridges of northern Italy, lies a hidden glade that no map marks and few dare speak of. For centuries, it was only whispered about in the oldest taverns and among shepherd families who remembered the strange tale passed from grandparent to grandchild, each version more chilling than the last. But the core of the legend remained the same, a garden of stone figures, human in form, yet not quite human, standing silently in a forgotten clearing, watching time slip by. The first known written account came from a diary belonging to Emilio Renzetti, a shepherd in 1843 who had gone missing for 2 weeks and later returned pale, with white-streaked hair, aged beyond his years. In his diary, found decades later in a barn attic, he detailed how a storm forced him to seek shelter in an unfamiliar part of the valley. Lost and exhausted, he stumbled into what he believed was a village, until he realized none of the figures moved or spoke. They were stone. Over 300 statues, all arranged in clusters, postures frozen mid-conversation, mid-embrace, even mid-scream. Each statue bore distinct facial features, expressions so vivid they seemed frozen midlife rather than carved. More disturbing, they didn't share resemblance to any known ethnic group of the region. Some bore elongated skulls, others had skin textures like scales or feathers carved in exquisite detail. No tools or quarries were found nearby, and archaeologists who later studied Renzetti's descriptions concluded that creating such lifelike figures with that level of detail and diversity was beyond the capability of any local civilization. In the 1880s, a small expedition was arranged by Count Antonio Vasari, an eccentric historian obsessed with the region's folklore. His group, including 2 sculptors and a linguist, ventured into the valley. Only 2 returned. They confirmed the statues were real, and the garden even larger than Renzetti described. One of the sculptors wept openly when recounting the visit, saying, "They weren't made. They were changed." When asked what he meant, he refused to elaborate and retired from sculpting days later. The other survivor, the linguist, died 3 months after returning, reportedly mumbling strange syllables in his sleep that no one could understand. Photos taken during the Vasari expedition mysteriously vanished from his archives before publication. The only remaining visual record is a charcoal sketch made by Vasari himself, showing the garden from a high vantage point. The figures appear to be arranged in spiral patterns, concentric rings leading to a central statue, twice the size of the others, arms raised, face skyward, mouth agape. In the decades that followed, several attempts were made to relocate the site, all in vain. Local guides claimed the valley had moved, or worse, that it only appeared when it wanted to. Weather reports confirmed sudden fog banks and compass failures near where the garden was supposed to be. In 1931, a fascist archaeological team vanished entirely. Their last radio transmission simply said, "We found the eye." Modern efforts using drones and satellite imaging have turned up nothing. Oddly, footage tends to blur when scanning the area. A tech company in 2011 sent a high-resolution drone capable of capturing images at 4K. It streamed footage live as it approached the coordinates based on Vasari's notes. Moments before the feed cut off, viewers reported a sudden flicker, one frame that showed what appeared to be human figures standing in unnatural stillness beneath the canopy. The drone was never recovered. Locals still avoid the valley. When asked why, a woman in her 90s who had lived in nearby Villaggio dell'Ombra all her life said quietly, "Because they listen when you speak their names. And they wait for one more to complete the ring." Among conspiracy theorists and fringe historians, the stone garden of Virello has become a subject of endless debate. Some propose it's an ancient form of punishment from a long-lost civilization. Those who defied a forgotten god turned to stone. Others believe it is a warning, a trap, or even a place where time distorts reality, preserving the victims forever in mid-thought. One modern theory gaining traction online claims the statues may not be stone at all, but people or creatures frozen in time, via some lost technology or unknown natural force. Proponents cite legends from other cultures that speak of cities turned to salt or beings cast into stone for gazing upon forbidden knowledge. Regardless of the origin, the chilling consistency in all reports is the sensation of being watched. Every account mentions the weight of unseen eyes, the silence so thick it presses on the chest, and a final moment of panic before memory goes blank. Most who claim to have seen the garden in person either retreat into silence or disappear from public life. Today, Virello Valley is mostly overgrown, choked with thorny underbrush and creeping vines, as if the earth itself is trying to hide what sleeps beneath. Yet every so often, a hiker or hunter goes missing nearby. Their belongings are found in neat piles. Footsteps lead away into the dense green, then stop. No prints return. The Vanishing Map of Emperor Olanji. In the heart of what is now the dense forested borderlands between Mali and Burkina Faso, the once great Ash'ari kingdom thrived. Flourishing between the 15th and 17th centuries, it rivaled the glory of Mali and Songhai, though much less is known of it. The mystery isn't just in its disappearance, but in the artifact that supposedly vanished with it, a map of cosmic proportions said to guide the bearer to the veil of the sky. Emperor Olanji II was the final ruler of Ash'ari. Tall, reclusive, and said to have been born during a thunderless eclipse, Olanji was fascinated by the stars. Court records translated from ancient Ash'ari script reveal that he frequently consulted with stargazers, geomancers, and dreamwalkers. He commissioned a celestial observatory on the eastern plateau of his kingdom, a tall stepped pyramid built of red sandstone, known to locals as the tower that drank fire, because its summit was said to glow every solstice, regardless of weather. But what captivated scholars most was the legend of the Map of Olanji, also known as the Veil Chart. Created, it was said, not with ink but with crushed meteorite powder and bark from trees that only bloomed once every 100 years, the map allegedly showed the location where the stars descend to drink from the earth. Some believed it to be metaphor, but the ancient text explicitly described the place as real, marked by a ring of black soil where nothing grows, surrounded by stones etched with languages from the sky. In 1621, everything vanished. Not just the emperor or the map, but the entire royal court. Over 400 individuals, advisors, servants, guards, their families, gone overnight. No signs of struggle. No fire. No battle. When foreign traders arrived weeks later for the seasonal tribute, they found the palace untouched but empty. Livestock wandered freely. Food spoiled on plates. Water jugs full. Birds nested undisturbed in royal chambers. Only silence remained. More strangely, the observatory had collapsed inward, every stone sucked into the center, as if pulled by a vortex. No human remains were found beneath it, only strange scorch marks on the soil in concentric spirals, like the aftermath of something unearthly departing or arriving. Local oral traditions speak of the night without sound. Elders recall their ancestors describing a blinding column of blue light rising from the palace just before dawn, so bright it turned night to day. For miles, animals were said to flee, crops withered, and rivers reversed their course briefly. And then, silence. One theory among Ash'ari descendants is that Olanji used the map to find and open a gate. Perhaps the veil was real. Not just a place, but a crossing point between worlds, dimensions, or even timelines. Olanji's interest in the stars wasn't scientific, it was spiritual. He believed the gods were not above us, but around us, hidden in folds of space. The map, then, may have been less a guide and more a key. In 1908, a French expedition led by colonial historian Pierre Leclerc set out to find the ruins of the Ash'ari palace. What they discovered shocked them, not ruins, but an overgrown city almost untouched by time. Trees had grown through walls, but the architecture stood firm. In the main palace, Leclerc found murals of star beings with elongated limbs and glowing eyes. The center of the palace had a sealed chamber lined with dark stone, completely smooth, without carvings, except one word etched in Ashari script, Ntheri, roughly translated to the Mirror of Return. The French report was sealed by the government and the site declared restricted. Leclerc was reassigned and never spoke of it again. But in 1963, during Mali's independence years, a local researcher named Ama Tunkara found remnants of Leclerc's journal. He described hearing a rhythmic humming from deep within the chamber, and dreams of standing on a black plain under a dome of stars that pulsed with color. He never published his findings. Days later, Tunkara disappeared, leaving behind an empty tent and a journal filled with sketches of constellations that don't match anything in our skies. To this day, satellites flying over the former Ashari region report sporadic magnetic interference. Photographs taken from planes show subtle circular patterns in the soil, only visible during dry season. No wildlife inhabits the area around the ancient observatory, and all vegetation forms unnatural right angles as if pressed into shape by some force. Recently, cryptographers and fringe theorists have reignited interest in the legend. A fragment of the supposed map resurfaced at an auction in Lisbon in 2017. It was bought anonymously for an undisclosed sum. The fragment contains geometric patterns that resemble both star maps and circuit diagrams. When digitally enhanced, the lines appear to pulse faintly, though experts claim it's just a visual illusion. Still, rumors swirl of those who try to reconstruct the map going mad. Several researchers have claimed that the symbols within seem to rearrange themselves when left unwatched. One woman reported waking up with spiral tattoos on her arm after weeks studying a digital recreation. The truth of the map of Emperor Olanji remains elusive. Did he find a gateway to another world? Did he escape the reach of time, of death, of Earth itself? Or was the map simply a myth, a beautiful story woven by people who vanished for more mundane reasons? But one thing is undeniable. Something happened in the Ashari kingdom, something that erased hundreds of lives in a single night, leaving no trace but a story, and the silence of a place where stars once kissed the soil. The silent manuscript of Lloréna. Tucked into the crumbling hillsides of northern Spain, not far from the Basque border, lie the forgotten ruins of the monastery of San Lloréna. Centuries ago, it was a thriving spiritual center known for its scholarship and strict isolation from the outside world. Its name meant light of the pure ones, but in time, its name faded from records, and the reasons behind its abandonment became a shadowed silence. In 1902, a group of hikers wandering through the region discovered a collapsed section of the monastery hidden under dense ivy and earth. Beneath a layer of dust and broken timbers, they uncovered a sealed room, unmarked, windowless, and curiously preserved. Within it, on a pedestal of smooth, blackened wood, lay a single object, a massive leather-bound book, untouched by mold or time. This was the first appearance of what has since become known as the silent manuscript. Composed of over 500 pages, the manuscript was filled edge to edge with script, but not in Latin, Spanish, Greek, or any recognizable language. Each character was perfectly formed, uniform in height, curve, and spacing. It seemed handwritten, yet impossibly precise. Despite the absence of punctuation or margins, the flow of the text appeared rhythmic, even poetic. The hikers turned the book over to a local priest, who in turn sent it to scholars in Madrid. What followed was a chain of strange and disturbing events that would mark the manuscript as cursed. The first translator assigned to decode it, Professor Amador Ruiz, studied it obsessively. He reportedly claimed the letters moved when he wasn't looking, shifting subtly into new configurations. His notes devolved from linguistic analyses into drawings of circles, spirals, and star-shaped symbols. He was found dead in his study after 3 weeks, having written the phrase, "They listen when you speak," repeatedly across his walls. A second scholar, linguist Eloisa Fernan, dismissed the tales as superstition. She approached the manuscript with a strictly analytical eye. But after prolonged exposure, she began to report headaches, insomnia, and auditory hallucinations. She wrote to a colleague that the manuscript whispers through ink, something beneath the letters that speaks without sound. Eloisa survived, but abandoned academia, and refused to speak about the manuscript for the rest of her life. By the 1920s, the manuscript had been shelved in the restricted archives of the National Library of Spain. It was catalogued as Manuscrito Silenti de Lloréna. All attempts at decryption failed. Artificial alphabets, known ciphers, substitution techniques, none bore fruit. The manuscript remained untouched for nearly 70 years. Then, in 1991, a young semiotician named Dr. Julian Arriaga reopened the case. Unlike his predecessors, Julian approached the manuscript from a philosophical rather than linguistic perspective. He proposed the radical idea that the book wasn't meant to be read at all. The text isn't language, he said. It's structure. A pattern to align the mind, to tune consciousness to something else. Julian claimed to have identified recurring glyphs at fixed intervals, almost like commands or ritual markers. He began meditating in front of the manuscript. Friends and family noted a drastic change in his demeanor. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. In his final email before vanishing, he wrote, "I've seen the page behind the page. It stares back." His apartment was found undisturbed, except for one unsettling detail. All the books on his shelves had been turned backward, pages facing out, spines hidden. The manuscript was returned to deep storage. Some now suggest that the book may not be from this world, or at least not from our layer of it. It shares eerie similarities with other artifacts around the world written in unknown scripts, the Rohank Codex, the Voynich manuscript, yet the silent manuscript of Lloréna is unique in one terrifying way. It appears to interact with those who study it. A modern theory proposes that it is a form of intelligent text, an artifact designed not merely to be read, but to react to the reader's thoughts, a kind of mimetic parasite. Once engaged, it implants something. A thought, a frequency, a pattern of behavior. The longer you read, the deeper the imprint. Some even suggest it's a form of containment, a prison, holding a dangerous consciousness inside that slowly leaks through as attention is paid. Digital scans of the manuscript were made in 2006 and uploaded briefly by a curious archivist. Within a week, the files were removed after a surge in reports of users experiencing sleep paralysis and nausea after viewing them. An online forum dedicated to deciphering it was shut down when 2 of its moderators disappeared, and a third was found incoherent, speaking in gibberish that, when transcribed, bore uncanny similarity to the manuscript's glyphs. No other copies exist. The monastery's other texts were destroyed in a fire sometime during the 17th century. Another mystery, as no record exists of any blaze, yet the scorched remains of bookbindings were found in what appeared to be a purpose-built underground vault. Why was the manuscript hidden so securely? Who wrote it, and more chillingly, what wrote it? Some believe it predates human civilization, passed down through secret orders, each generation failing to decipher it and wisely choosing to hide it again. Others believe it was written not with the hand, but the mind, imprinted through dreams or visions from something vast and indifferent. To this day, it lies untouched in a sealed chamber under biometric lock in a private vault outside Madrid. Occasionally, a request is made to study it. Most are denied. Those who are granted access sign waivers, undergo psychological evaluations, and are monitored continuously. No one is allowed more than 2 hours in its presence. No one has ever lasted the full 2. The lighthouse that never was. Off the storm-torn coast of northern Scotland, where waves smash jagged cliffs and sea mist devours the sky, there's a stretch of black rock known by sailors as Dagger's Edge. No maps list it, no GPS can mark it. Yet mariners have spoken of it for centuries, a place where compasses die, radios fall silent, and time seems to bend. At the center of this mystery stands a lighthouse. But here's the thing, there's no record of any lighthouse being constructed there. No permits, no shipping logs, no architectural plans. Yet since the early 1800s, countless captains have reported seeing a tall, weathered lighthouse rising out of the fog on nights of heavy storm, its light slicing through the dark like a blade of fire, guiding lost ships away from certain wreckage. It first appears in official maritime records in 1823, when the British cargo vessel Emerald Shade drifted off course during a brutal squall. The captain's log, preserved in the National Maritime Museum, describes how a sudden and mighty beam of gold broke through the heavens, revealing jagged rocks just ahead. The crew altered course just in time. The lighthouse, they claimed, had no windows, only a spiral tower of obsidian stone, and a light that spun without sound or mechanism. Yet when investigators sailed to the coordinates days later, nothing was there. No rocks. No island. Just open sea. For the next 150 years, similar sightings trickled in. Always the same, violent storm, impending doom, then the light. Sailors swore by it, naming it the savior of the North Deep. Some even began leaving offerings at sea, coins in bottles, carved wooden ships, or oil lanterns lit and set adrift, to thank the unknown keeper. In 1967, a declassified naval report revealed that a military aircraft had picked up an unusual electromagnetic signal in the area. Fearing Soviet interference, a stealth reconnaissance team was dispatched to locate the source. What they found never made it into the final report, but excerpts from a crewman's personal diary surfaced years later. It described an impossible tower, built on a crag that did not exist before we arrived. The crew climbed the slick stone steps inside, only to find room after room filled with clocks, hundreds of them, all ticking in unison, though none showed the same time. At the summit, instead of a lantern or Fresnel lens, there was a circular mirror, spinning slowly, suspended in mid-air. It showed not their reflection, but something else. Storms from other oceans, ships from other times, and a boy waving from a window that could not belong to any known vessel. The crew was airlifted out. No photographic evidence remains. The rock formation was gone when they returned 3 days later. Modern sonar has never detected a stable landmass in the region. Yet testimonies continue. In 1999, the Norwegian fishing vessel Clara Sun radioed a mayday before vanishing from radar. 4 days later, the ship was found adrift near the Faroe Islands, all crew missing. The only clue, a message carved into the wood of the helm: the keeper knows. Do not look into the light. This led to growing speculation that the lighthouse is not a beacon of safety, but a threshold. Some researchers propose that it's not a lighthouse at all, but a projection from another time, or another world. Its light doesn't just reveal fog or rocks, it peels away illusion, showing what lies beneath the surface of our reality. In 2012, amateur explorer Lydia Carlson set out on a solo kayak expedition to document the area. Her GPS track vanished for 2 hours before reconnecting. When she returned, she claimed to have found the lighthouse, not standing but sunken, just beneath the waves. She described coral-covered bricks, barnacle-encrusted gears, and massive chains that disappeared into the abyss below. Most hauntingly, she said the light was still turning, visible only when submerged. Lydia tried to return with a diving team, but the coordinates led only to empty water. She later confessed to recurring dreams of a door at the bottom of the ocean, slightly ajar, and a figure with no face tending a lantern that burned without fire. Several physicists and fringe historians have tried to explain it away as a time echo, a structure that exists only during precise cosmic alignments or within folds of gravitational anomaly. A rotating portal. A shipwrecked relic of another dimension. Yet nothing explains the consistency across centuries. The same design, the same spiral tower, the same golden light. A more disturbing theory suggests the lighthouse is not a location at all, but a sentience. A living mechanism, choosing when and where to appear. A guardian, perhaps, or a lure, depending on who you ask. Because while the lighthouse has saved many, there are those who never return. Their ships are found without damage. Engines intact. Food untouched. But no crew. Sometimes, the clocks on board are all stopped at the same time, 2:47 a.m. There are even those who claim to have met the keeper. One such story comes from a lone sailor named Thomas Muir, who washed ashore in 1978, dehydrated and delirious. He spoke of being pulled into a storm and then waking on the rocky steps of a tower. A man in a long black coat greeted him, face hidden in shadow. The man offered him tea and said only, "You were not meant to see beyond." Muir claims he was shown the sea, as it truly is, a thin veil atop a sleeping thing that breathes once every 1,000 years. No one believed him. He died in 1986, blind, with no medical explanation. Today, ships still avoid Dagger's Edge. Some say you can summon the lighthouse by speaking your true name into the mist. Others believe it comes only for those fated to vanish. But whether it's savior, sentinel, or snare, the lighthouse that never was continues to shine in the storm, guiding, revealing, choosing. The Oracle of Hollow Wind. High in the Carpathian Mountains, buried within a cleft of stone that doesn't appear on any satellite images, lies the cave known in scattered legends as Hollow Wind. It's not a tourist site, nor is it marked on any maps. Only the oldest of shepherds and a handful of superstitious locals dare speak of it, and even then, only in hushed tones under breath. They say it's not just a cave, but a mouth. Not a hollow in the earth, but a hollow in time. And at its center is the oracle. According to village folklore dating back to the 1500s, the cave speaks. Not metaphorically. Literally. Wind rushes through the cracks of the stone walls, but instead of howling or whistling, it forms words. Whole sentences. Questions. Prophecies. Commands. Warnings. The stories vary, but one thing is constant. The cave only speaks when it is alone with a person. It cannot be recorded, and no second witness ever hears the same thing. The first written account comes from a tattered journal belonging to Bishop Alan Negru, dated 1582. He was sent to the region by church authorities to investigate rumors of heresy. Locals were abandoning Mass and instead spending nights in the forest near the cave, lighting fires, waiting. When Negru entered the cave alone, he wrote that the wind touched the inside of my skull and spoke with my mother's voice, though she had been dead 10 years. The voice told him of a secret sin he had never confessed to anyone. Then it told him where to find the body of a missing child from the nearby village. He did. It was exactly where the cave said. After that, Negru stayed in the village for 5 more years. He abandoned his post and built a small chapel near the cave entrance, which he visited every week. His final entry before vanishing read only, "It said I must go now. It showed me the turning of the world." Centuries passed. The chapel collapsed. The cave was forgotten by most, until a team of Soviet geologists stumbled across it in 1961 while surveying for mineral deposits. According to declassified documents from 1993, one of the team members, Yuri Prokin, insisted on spending the night in the cave. His comrades found him the next morning muttering in Romanian, a language he didn't speak. He claimed the cave had told him about a great wave of steel, coming in 12 years. In 1973, he died in a train derailment in Bucharest, the only passenger with no physical injuries, but eyes wide open, pupils fully dilated, face frozen in a mix of awe and terror. In recent years, a few rogue explorers have tried to document the cave. Cameras brought into the passageways fail. Batteries drain within seconds. Microphones pick up only static and what some describe as a reverse heartbeat, a rhythmic pulse that seems to inhale rather than exhale. Those who do manage to spend time in the cave emerge changed. One researcher, Dr. Kasia Albrecht, wrote a detailed blog about her experience in 2007 before deleting her entire website and going off-grid. In her final post, she claimed the cave didn't just speak, it listened. "It doesn't answer your questions," she wrote. "It repeats back what you've hidden from yourself, the things you cannot admit. And then it tells you what that truth becomes, years from now." What unnerves most is not the existence of voices, but their accuracy. Countless villagers have described hearing future events from the cave, the death of a parent, the collapse of a barn, the betrayal of a spouse. Some scoff. Others believe too much. A few cult-like groups have even attempted to live near the cave, waiting for regular communes with the wind. All of them disband after a year. Some members go missing. The most unsettling aspect, however, lies in the stories of people who never return. There is no record of them leaving the region. Their vehicles are found parked along rural roads. Supplies are left neatly outside the cave entrance. And within the cave, always at the same place. 11 steps past a natural column of pale limestone. There's an engraving on the wall that was never there before. A name. Each time, it matches the name of the missing individual. Some say the cave takes those who listen too closely. That the oracle, whatever it truly is, does not merely echo knowledge but consumes awareness. That the act of understanding some truths fractures reality around you, peeling away layers until you fall into something else. A place with no return. In 2021, a linguist named Amelia Crane attempted to create a phonetic transcription of the cave speech. She spent 6 weeks in the village, gathering testimony, and finally visited the cave alone. When she emerged, she was silent for 12 days. When she finally spoke again, she didn't answer questions, didn't recognize her family, and repeated a single phrase. They made it into the shape of a cave so that we would go willingly. Her notebooks remain under lock and key in a private collection. Some who have seen them say her final pages describe not just the cave, but a network of them, hidden across the world. Mouths in the mountains, cracks in the desert, breathing chambers beneath the ice, all speaking the same truth in different tongues, waiting for someone to understand the whole message. So what is the oracle of Hollow Wind? A geological anomaly? A psychic phenomenon? A consciousness spread thin across the bones of the earth? No one knows. And maybe it's better that way, because knowledge is not always safety. Sometimes, it's a threshold. And some doors, once opened, do not shut again. Every case adds a new layer of mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Which one lingers in your mind, and what's your take on what really happened?